and welcome to a little crazy boat renovation.
Where are we up to now then? Well, we've got the first undercoat across this area around the windows and over the main roof. As I said before, need to get these windows back in, so what I'll do is only undercoat and top coat around the framing of that window. I'll fully undercoat and top coat the roof. These windows at the front will have to come out, be prepared, and do the same on these ones. Right now I'm looking at the front deck, taking more furniture off. Hopefully at some stage I can get this pulpit rail off. Now this is where the old water inlet used to be, so that's got to be filled and blocked because we're not using that now, we're using one at the very back. This is where the anchor chain inlet outlet was, a little flat cover on there. As you can see, well, as you may be able to, if you can't see it on the film I shall put a picture, but the deck is very spongy across this area, and in here the two fiberglass sections have split from the core. You can see I can get my finger right in there. Now that was probably balsa core inside that. It's thicker on the outside, it's very thin on the inside. So the only real way of repairing this is to cut the inside fiberglass away, replace the core, which in this case I'll either put balsa back in or I'll put fiberglass, then re-fiberglass inside, make good out here. All this will be filled, re-drilled again, and then the deck will be sound again. Now I believe on my first look it only goes up to just before where the front hatch is, but I'll do exploratory cuts around underneath just to see how far I need to go with it. So that's what I'm looking at the moment. I want to get this section waterproofed, but I may hold off until I get this underneath done, because obviously it'll have a lot of flex if I put some paint. If I do paint it, I'll only paint the undercoat on it. After I do these repairs, I'll go around and do as much repairing as I can. It's very hard to see on this gel coat the smallest type of pinholes and cracks and things like that. I get most of them, but once I've put an undercoat on there, then it shows up. Because that was the same as around this side. When I first put this undercoat on, there was a lot of pinholes all the way down there, which came back, filled, put another bit undercoat on. But this undercoat would be good for, well, it can sit there for 6 months, it doesn't matter, as long as you rub it down afterwards when you're going to do another coat of it. Right, so that's what I'm up to at the moment. Inside the boat, to have a look at the piece we need to repair on the ceiling at the front. You can see that's where we were. You can see the two holes there for the water and anchor inlet. Pulpit rail to the front hatch. So the area we need to replace would be at the front of that hatch there, up to the front. So let's go down inside. I've just taken the cover off today. It's been on for over a week because of the torrential rain, which is obviously a week after we had a little heat wave. So this is the anchor locker, and the offending piece is is where the anchor came through. This is what I think caused the problem, which is just there. I don't know if that's too blurry for you to see. And that's where from the outside I'll put my finger between the two pieces of fiberglass. Okay, so round the outside you can see a stronger core. There's nothing wrong with that. There's the old water inlet that used to come through into a pipe. So all the way round the outside it has got a thicker core, which is all very sound. So the question now is it this triangular piece here incorporating this anchor hole that needs to be cut away, and how far into the boat? Now right above me is where the cleat sits, so it's in a recessed area there, and then that had a block on top of it and then the cleat on top of that. So it's a question of how sound this is. I mean, when you tap it, it's obviously the fiberglass is all very sound. It's the core that's gone, but it's how far the core goes back that needs replacing. Certainly I need to cut this little triangular piece out here. It's shaped where this cleat is. Now I could cut around that. I mean, obviously if it's all gone inside there as well, it will have to come off, but we don't want to chop out loads of good core just for the sake of it. On the other hand, we want to make a nice cut so that it's easier to replace. So I think what I'll start by doing is cutting either this side or the other side of this divider. This is only a fiberglass sheet. It's not going to be easy because, as you can imagine, I'm literally laying down on what would be the front bed, and it's just above my head, but it's all doable. Just going to be awkward to work here with fiberglass up above your head. It'll just take a little bit of time, but we'll get there. I was hoping that I'd be able to cut the actual fiberglass down from here, clean it, and even reuse, but because of the shape, because of the angle, that's looking a bit awkward. I don't think I'll manage to get that out nicely. I'll have to end up just cutting small sections, which will help anyway, because as we're coming back we'll cut a section off. Yes, that's rot. Cut another section off. That's not rot. We know where to stop and what to replace. So the whole basis of this is to take the spring out of the deck, because it's not very good. I suppose there is a way that you can clean out quite a bit of the core up there without removing these, and then possibly putting some sort of foam filler in there. Trouble is with that, you can't see how far the rot goes, so really what you're doing is you're just bodging a job. And there's the front pulpit connections. There's another one over there, one behind my back in the same place, and a further one over there. So what I'd like to do as well is get the pulpit right off, even fill those holes, because you know, where the screws, where the bolts come through, I don't know whether these have been leaking over time. They may not. Can't tell today because it's not raining, but it's always good when you've got the chance to take everything off, fill all the holes, make good, and then re-drill nice clean holes, nicely sealed, and then put your fittings back on. You know you've got no leaks then. Nothing worse than doing all the inside, because I forget all this inside's got to be completely done, and you don't want to do all that in nice vinyls and things and cloths, only to find you've left something that's going to leak and cause you aggro further down the line. So what I shall do is make a start. I'll cut this first section out. As you can see, it's only a small section. The hole is where the anchor inlet was, and you see at this end where it was hard to break away, even though I cut round, it was grabbing onto the balsa. Now, feeling up underneath there, I'll go underneath the camera, I'm not sure how much you will see. So there we are, that's, oh, hang on, get my mask off so you can hear me. This is the section I've cut out, and it was at this section that there's still the fiberglass stuck on there. That's because this is all solid. It's quite good there. I'll dig away anyway to this area that I've dug. It's all solid around the outside, and then up here you can see where I'm pulling out the balsa. It's soft in that bit slightly there, so I'll probably have to cut from here back to this edge, or I'll just dig it out and then infill from there with the balsa or ply, and then the rest of this section. Moving the camera about too much, you probably can't see. It's a bit awkward under here, I'm obviously laying down and squashed. So yeah, that's the section that we need to replace. I'll refill the hole as I go, and re-drill it again. But that's the piece that was causing all the prob at the front, where you're walking on it and it's flexing like that. Obviously this has only got one outer fiberglass on it now. But yeah, that's all it is inside, is balsa. But I can cut a bit of ply to go in there just as well. And like I said, at the front where the water inlet is, that just needs filling, because all around the outside is solid. I think that's actually a high build of fiberglass around there. There's no core in that particular part. And the rest of the section up here, I believe, is all solid, because there's no, looking around, there's no evidence of any water leakage from anywhere on this part. Obviously it's dirty. This is still the residue from when the boat originally sunk. This is where that hasn't been blasted off, because it's right underneath here. I didn't even realise, but easy enough to clean off, not a problem. Right, I've just got to dig that bit out now. I can't do it while I'm filming, because, as I say, it's so tight, and it's not, to be honest, for the faint-hearted when you're doing a tight area like this with the tool that I'm using. I'm using a multi-tool, which is, you've seen me use it before on the internal. But this is what I'm using. Yeah, so I'm literally in here with it above my head. There's hardly any arm room. And the thing with these tools is they switch on and they switch off. So while it's running, when you're doing this, any slackness in your hand, you let it drop, boom, it's straight on top here, and it's going to carry on running. So you know, be very, very careful when using these in this sort of situation. Right, let's get that core cut out now. I've cleaned the hole out and taken it back a little bit further. I've come back out to here now, which is where this edge is, up to where the pattern of it goes. Little shape there. It all feels solid in there. And I'll give you an idea of time to do this small little patch. It's been about 3 hours. Now, this stuff normally goes off a little square pad, tiny squares within a say about a foot square of the balsa, and then has a peel back on it. So you would expect that up here, nice straight balsa, straight lines going across some little squares, and they come out like that. Well, how they've laid this up, I don't know if you can actually see the patterns on there. It was all higgledy-piggledy. Bit here, bit there, squashed in, you know, lots of big gaps in it. And what they did is they come out of here. Yeah, what they did is filled it with copious amounts of this, whatever this is, hard as rock, some type of resin obviously, and that's why it's taken so long, because I've just had to chisel all of this off. I still have to grind or sand or something, whatever tool I can get in there, probably a mouse sander actually, just to get it flat for putting the new balsa or plywood up. But yeah, that's been a bit of a mother doing that. I think I got it back to as far as I need to. I shall investigate a little bit further on, just to make sure that I have got all the dampness out of it. I believe I have, and then I'll get on to prepping it and putting it good again. I've now given the area a good sand down and mixed up some silica and resin and filled the gaps around the edges so that my new board fits nicely into that area. So now let's go and treat the board that's going to go in there back in the workshop. I've now treated my infill wood with the usual Smith's penetrating epoxy sealer, both sides all round the edges so that it's well soaked in. So we'll give that at least 24 hours to dry off. I'm waiting for the filler on the boat anyway to dry before I can put this piece in. The reason I've done this is because if you're ever doing fiberglass in on a piece like this, a piece of wood, what most people do is they just coat it in a resin and then start laying out the fiberglass on there. But before they've got very far, most of the resin that they've put on in the first place is soaked into the wood. So you really need a hell of a lot of resin until it stops soaking in. We'll put in the Smiths on there, penetrating epoxy. That, when that goes off, won't let any liquid soak through. So the fiberglass resin will just be on the top. Use a lot less resin. Right, I've got the core plywood in place up there. It's been held up with a couple of bits of wood at the moment, so it's up there. Now it needs a sand down around the edges. If I was to tell you this was an easy job doing that, I would be lying. It was dirty, messy, awkward, because it's in such a tight area in that anchor locker. But all that's left now is to clean it up. So you give it a sand down around the edges, and then put a couple of layers of fiberglass over the whole lot to seal it, and then finish sanding round, cleaning up inside that locker, and then give it a nice paint out, and then that bit will be done. I've filled in all the edges now of our core with the fiberglass paste. around the edge there. So that's now ready to have its final coat of fiberglass and resin over it. And I'll do that hole at the same time from the bottom. So that was the black hole of Calcutta, and now I've given it a coat of 1, 2, 3 bullseye primer undercoat, which I'm putting just about everywhere. So anchor lock almost finished. Just go in there and look up. There was the ceiling that I replaced, and as I say, I've coated it all round. The 2 holes there, well actually there's 3 there, but they're for the U piece that goes outside the front, which holds the boat onto a trailer. So I'll go over that with a dandelion paint to make it all nice and shiny. I like shiny. I have painted up under there as well. No need for it, because all that's got to be covered, just like this side. And there's the hatchway. But yeah, I'm very glad to have finished really in there. That was a pig of a job. Well, I don't recommend it for anyone, but something that had to be done. So if you've got a flexible deck, you know what you've got to go through. Might be easier ways to do it, but I don't know of any. And it's done now anyway, so on to the next job.